Good afternoon, and welcome to Oakland Avenue Presbyterian Church, located in beautiful Rock Hill, South Carolina, and just down the street from Winthrop University. I'm Ed West, head of music ministries here at Oakland Avenue, and have the pleasure of welcoming you to our second concert of this season's Music at Oakland concert series. The Music at Oakland concert series annually offers a wide variety of musical events for the enjoyment of our congregation, our community, and now by live stream, the entire world. The concert series is funded in part by proceeds from the Moore Family Music Endowment, dedicated by the parents of 4 Moore brothers and 1 grandson who all loved music at Oakland Avenue Presbyterian Church over the years. Now, to introduce this afternoon's performance, we are extremely pleased to welcome renowned organist, and I might add, Rock Hill resident, Monty Bennett to the organ console for this afternoon's performance. A graduate of the University of California at Santa Barbara, Monty was a student of Dr. James Welch, with whom he not only studied organ, but carillon and harpsichord. Monty has performed around the world as an organist, accompanist, and conductor, making his European debut in 2005 at the 22nd International Festival of Organists in Turin, Italy. He played his first European carillon recital at the Chapel of the Dukes of Savoy, Chambéry, France, and he premiered 2 of the selections he would be playing today in Europe, the Calvin Taylor Spirituals and the Godwin Sado Franco-African Suite. Locally, Monty has served as organist in Charlotte, North Carolina, at Calvary Church and Friendship Missionary Baptist Church, and organist and director of music at Temple Israel and Park Road Baptist Church. He currently serves as director of sacred music at Our Lady of Grace Roman Catholic Church in Lancaster, South Carolina. A little bit about the instrument Monty will be playing today. Today's program will be performed on Oakland Avenue's 34-rank Cassavant organ, installed in 1967. In 2004 and again in 2018, the organ underwent extensive refurbishing, including relocation and separation of the antiphonal organ in 2004, and the addition of several new stops, releathering of the pipes, and controllers to support the music needs of the church in 2018. Monty will be using both the main organ located just behind me and the antiphonal organ at the back of our sanctuary during today's program. Monty will speak more about his program choices all during the program, but today we celebrate Martin Luther King weekend and the music of Black composers through the talented hands and feet of Mr. Monty Bennett. Monty, we welcome you to Oakland Avenue, and your local and worldwide audiences await your performance. Welcome to Oakland Avenue.
The first piece that I'll play today is an organ transcription from a choral arrangement of Lift Every Voice and Sing, the Black National Anthem, originally written by the Johnson brothers. This is a transcription of a choral setting that Roland Carter wrote, and Noel Jones did the organ transcription. The next piece is written by an amazing composer, Florence Beatrice Price. This is one of her short works entitled Adoration. Florence Price was born in Little Rock, Arkansas, and had extensive musical training as a child, was admitted to the New England Conservatory of Music at the age of 16, had graduated with her master's in just a couple of years, and performed for the world-renowned French composer and organist Alexandre Guillemot at his request on one of his concert tours. She was a composer, she wrote the first symphony that was performed, ever performed the work by a black female composer. She was a church musician, composer, teacher, and also a theater organist. And from her short collection, her short works, you'll notice that there is a heavy theater organ type styling to her music, and this is entitled Adoration. The Air for Organ by William Cooper is a beautiful piece. Again, it's very lyrical. William Cooper wrote this for his wife Doris, who was an opera singer. Cooper himself was a renowned church musician for many years in New York City, where he served St. Martin's Episcopal Church and also St. Philip's Episcopal Church in Harlem. He loved exploring harmony and pushing the limit of harmony, and you'll hear there's some very crunchy chords in this next piece that actually sound like wrong notes, but they resolve. So he had a very interesting musical ear. So this will be showing off some of the foundation stops of the organ as the solos. The Reverie for Celeste is from Thomas Kerr's Suite Sebastienne, which he wrote for the dedication of the organ at his church at Pilgrim Congregational Church in Washington, D.C., where he was the music director and organist for many years. And this, again, is a very lush piece showing off the strings and the Celeste of the organ. It adds a soft flute midway through and then goes back to the softest stops on the organ. But he uses some really lush harmonies, and it's a beautiful meditative piece. David Hurd's Evening Song is another interesting piece. Many of these composers are very forward-thinking in their compositional style, using very interesting harmonies. David Hurd also experiments with rhythm in this, so this is a very chant-like piece. It starts off with some of the strings and flutes, builds to full organ, and then back down to the softest strings and the 4-foot flute on the Spitz flute. David Hurd is currently the music director and organist at St. Mary the Virgin Episcopal Church in New York City. And to close out this first section of music of the Western classical tradition, I'd like to play the Impromptu number 1 in F major by Samuel Coleridge Taylor. Taylor was born in England, went to the conservatory in London. His father was from Sierra Leone, his mother was a Londoner, but his grandparents were freed slaves from the United States who had gone to Sierra Leone to start a new life. Because of the influence of his grandparents, he learned about spirituals and he made several trips to the United States, wrote pieces for the Fisk Jubilee Singers, and included many spirituals in his extended works for orchestra and choir, and was quite well known as an organist, conductor, and a violinist. 3 pieces are in this collection, and then he also wrote another 3 short pieces for the organ. So his output for the organ was relatively small compared to all the other orchestral and choral works that he wrote. Ralph Simpson is a Nashville-based organist and composer, and this is Fantasy on Fugue on My Lord, What a Morning was written for the National Association of Negro Musicians. And I'd like to read you Mr. Simpson's notes because I think it gives the best explanation of the piece. My Lord, what a morning, when the stars begin to fall, you'll hear the trumpet sound to wake the nations underground, looking to my God's right hand when the stars begin to fall. The spiritual is based on Revelation chapter 8, verses 7 to 12, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood. A great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea, and there fell a great star from heaven. The third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for a third part of it, and the night likewise. The above scenario provides an occasion for mourning rather than jubilation. The composer, nevertheless, elected to use the spiritual to indicate the sad state of affairs which might have resulted if the National Association of Negro Musicians had not been founded. The fantasy opens with a statement comprising a call-response rendering of key phrases of the spiritual. 3 bold pronouncements of this opening material relinquish to a wrapping, modal discussion of the chaotic plight as outlined in the scriptures. Here the number 3 is operative. 3 flats in the signature, changing to 3 sharps, and later on the 3 naturals, accessing tonal areas thirds apart. Also, the intercultural minor third riddles these terse ideas, and the ensuing writing uses triple meter and dance-like gestures. These episodes lead to a welcomed melody of the famed spiritual presented 3 times to bring the fantasy to its conclusion. Concurrent with the completion of the fantasy, the composer learned that Herman Taylor would premiere the work. It was immediately decided that a fugue would follow the fantasy since Dr. Taylor has such strong affinity with Baroque music. The subject of the fugue is a compressed version of the opening phrase of My Lord, What a Morning, and is intended to rejoice with National Association of Negro Musicians in its Diamond Jubilee celebration. The subject, having been duly answered, is followed by contrapuntal gymnastics embracing the joy motive of J.S. Bach, and by well-spaced statements of the spiritual's melody in the pedals. Interestingly, there's hardly a bar in the fugue in which some reference to the spiritual is absent. The first 3 of the concluding 6 bars utilize 4 major chords, C, B, D flat, and C in rapid succession in deference to the National Association of Negro Musicians for having reached this pinnacle. The final chord emits the highest pitched full organ sounds of the fugue, supported by the lowest and loudest possible from the pedals. This triumphant ending parallels the scope of viability held by the National Association of Negro Musicians. The hymn to Nettleton that most people know as Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing, this is an arrangement by Undine Smith Moore, who taught at Virginia State University in Petersburg for many years. She wrote two organ pieces, this and another piece. This was written for one of her students for a recital. The other piece was lost and was just recently found and will be published by Morning Star in the Mickey Thomas Terry series of music of African American composers. Many of the pieces that I've played today come from that series. So if you're an organist and want to learn more about this music, I urge you to check out that series by Mickey Terry. It's a phenomenal resource. There's some great pieces in there. I could play for hours playing the whole set. There are 8 volumes and a 9th to be published. This variation starts off using the flute stops, builds up to foundation stops, and it's a very interesting, simple piece, but you'll hear snippets of the melody that she does some interesting things jumping around from hands to feet and all over the keyboard in many octaves. Calvin Taylor is a composer, organist, and pianist. He served in Bowling Green, Kentucky as the organist of First Baptist Church. He holds degrees in piano performance, music theory, and composition, and was a student for his doctorate of Marilyn Mason at the University of Michigan. Marilyn Mason commissioned this set of spirituals. I premiered them in Turin, Italy at the International Festival of Organists. I'm going to play 4 of these 5. This Little Light of Mine is the first. Talk About a Child That Do Love Jesus, Were You There, and Soon I Will Be Done, which is a tour de force for the organist because it is up and down the pedals and even includes a pedal solo. The arrangement of Give Me Jesus by Marcus Garrett is a transcription that he did of a motet that he wrote that's published by GIA. Marcus is an incredibly talented young composer and is the assistant director of choral activities at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. Joshua at the Battle of Jericho was written by the Nigerian composer Fela Sowanda, and I purposely put this at the end of the section based on spirituals and hymns to be the bridge to the next section, Contemporary Music from Africa, because Fela Sowanda was known as the Dean of Church Musicians of Nigeria. He studied in English. In England, was a noted liturgical musician, a theater organist, a jazz pianist, then came to the United States and taught in Ohio, and one of his proteges is Godwin Sado, who wrote the next three pieces that I'll be playing after this. So it's a nice bridge between the Sado pieces and this section. It's a fun piece, it's fun to play, the pedals get a workout, you'll hear lots of jazz motives in this, as well as classical motives in the opening. And the final pieces are contemporary works written by a Nigerian composer, a young composer, Godwin Sado. Godwin studied in Nigeria, came to the United States for his master's and doctorate. He studied at Louisiana State University, and he taught at several universities in the States before moving back to Nigeria. The Nigerian Suite Number 2 uses traditional Yoruba Christian melodies. The first piece is the prelude. Then there's a beautiful short piece that uses the flute stops and the Celeste of the organ called Adoration, and then a fun royal dance. The second piece that I'll play is from his collection Reflections from an African Moonlight, and it's a piece entitled Moon Song that uses just the foundation stops of the organ, the principal stops, which are the stops that sound like an organ, that don't imitate anything else. And then the final piece is a triptych, 3 movements, called the Franco-American Triptych for organ. The first movement, the Dancing Shoes, uses only the pedals. Then there's a short prayer, and you'll know the melody that's in there. And then a Fantasia Africana. And I'd like to read you the composer's notes for the triptych. I was privileged a year and a half ago to play the world premiere of this piece. Godwin asked me to do that and was quite honored. So these are Godwin's notes on that piece. The Franco-African Triptych for organ solo was commissioned by the Association Éphémère Classique in France on November 7th, 2018 to celebrate the memory of the French composer Jean-Louis Florence and his interest in African music. The 3-movement work was composed on November 26, 2018 in Abuja, the federal capital of Nigeria. The music exemplifies the attributes of a modern intercultural music through the juxtaposition of musical ideations from the African and French cultures. The first piece, The Dancing Shoes, is set for the pedals only. The title of this original composition is in Yoruba, one of the major ethnic languages from southwest Nigeria. It's infused with scintillating rhythmic patterns to move the performer and audience to dance, while the dramatic sections are articulated with abrupt silences. As regards the performance technique, the organist should play the music percussively, imitating the playing of African drums. That is to say, the sharp attack and fast decay of African percussion instruments should be strictly adhered to in the interpretation of this piece. The second movement, prière, meaning prayer in French, is built on a Zulu song from South Africa. It's a sweet, gentle, flowing piece to be played with deep feelings. It's most suitable for contemplative aspects of divine worship, such as prayer sessions, quiet moments, communion, offertory, laying on of hands, etc. The last piece, Fantasia Africana, is a very lively piece that uses all the resources of the organ. It is an original composition based on a 5-note motivic cell that is derived from the composer's first and last name, Jean Florence, the J-E-A and the F. The adapted music notes employ both the French pronunciation of the English alphabets and the names of the notes in the music staff. So G, the J is the G note on the organ, the E is E, A is the A note, F is the F note, and then in Florence, the final E is also the E. So the 5 notes are so, mi, la, fa, mi, having C major as the tonal center. The 5-note pitch collection is similar to the pentatonic scale commonly found in African folk songs. So these 3 works are by Godwin Sado, starting with Nigerian Suite.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am speechless. And Monty, we want to thank you for the beautiful concert to help us celebrate Martin Luther King weekend. We couldn't have asked for more, and I know that was a very strenuous program. Thank you, and we hope that you'll join us again for another Music at Oakland concert series. Have a good week.